grace that you have given me to come before you. I'll read through my submission, but maybe before I do that, just 1 or 2 minutes as a preamble, Honorable Chair. You have already alluded to the fact that the office I held was a very sensitive office, and national security by its nature, especially when it comes to state security, has got its nuances that maybe certain aspects are a bit difficult to talk about, especially when you're talking to the members of the public. Nevertheless, I'll try my best to assist the committee in your investigation, Honorable Chair. Maybe just to mention that I may be a bit limited for a number of reasons. Number one, by the nature of intelligence, because when we talk about intelligence, we are simply talking about processed information. And the Chair, not to sound as if I'm lecturing to your committee, but maybe so that we understand each other. The National Intelligence Service mostly deals with national security information. And when you talk about national security, is I think 3 major subsectors. You made the defense, they protect the territorial integrity of this nation. You made the police, you are meeting the police, that is what we call public security. So the police, immigration, customs, prisons, those that interface with the public and handle things that directly affect the public. That is what we call public security. And state security is where the National Intelligence Service comes in to protect the integrity of the state as a machinery of governance that we as a nation of Malawi have and fought for. So by limitation basically is that by nature of the intelligence product, it belongs to the service. And details are very critical in intelligence. And you have rightly said, it is very dangerous to speculate. So my simple advice, maybe before I start, is it would actually be very helpful for my successor, who is the incumbent, because he is the custodian of all the intelligence from the time of Kamuzu. All that information is there. If something is lost, maybe it is lost. They can assist you very much. I will try to assist as somebody who is outside the office. I don't have the grace that I can even call upon any of the officers that I worked with to help me here and there, because by the nature of the job, you have hundreds and hundreds of reports you are looking on a daily basis. Having said that, allow me to get to my submission, Honorable Chair. I've titled submission to the ad hoc committee on the Chikangawa plane crash inquiry. I hereby submit my testimony as per the summons to be a witness on my role as Director General and the National Intelligence Service on the late Vice President's flight on 10th June 2024. That is before the flight as well as after the wreckage of the incident was discovered, and any other information that may assist the committee in its inquiry as per the summons. Involvement before the flight. Honorable Chair, neither the NIS nor myself were involved in the preparations of or any other activity before the ill-fated flight. However, considering that it was the day the then State President, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus MacArthur Chakwera, was expected to depart for the African Export-Import Bank, AFREXIM, annual summit in the Bahamas, the officers, that is my officers at Kamuzu International Airport, reported that the Vice President had departed from Zuzu to attend the funeral of the late Raphael Kasambala, SC, who had passed on the 7th of June 2024. At around 11 a.m. or thereabouts, I got a call from our Kia station officer informing me that at the airport they had activated the Joint Aviation Operations Command Center involving all key stakeholders because they could not trace the whereabouts of the plane that had carried the late Vice President, Right Honorable Dr. Saulos Klaus Chilima. This was so because it had failed to reach Mzuzu on the scheduled flight and had not returned to Lilongwe either. Immediately, I called the then Secretary to the President and Cabinet, Ms. Colleen Zamba, to map the way forward. She advised that we immediately head to Kamuzu Palace to brief the President. Upon reaching the palace, I found her in the waiting room with the then Inspector General of Police, Mrs. Melini Olamu, and the then Commander of the Malawi Defense Force, General Valentino Piri. In the waiting lounge, we learned that through the Joint Operations Command activated at Kia, the search had commenced to trace the whereabouts of the plane by first contacting all the possible alternate airports and landing strips in the neighboring Mozambique, Tanzania, and Zambia, as well as some districts in the northern region like Kalonga and Likoma, and no one had seen the aircraft. The SPC briefed us that working together with the Secretary to the Vice President, Dr. Lake Skwese, they had shared the phone contact numbers of the people on board the aircraft with the cell phone service providers, that is Airtel and TNM, where one of the numbers, I believe belonging to the medical officer, had been picked by the tower at Leprai Malawi Limited in Chikangawa Forest. This was significant because prior to this, as per communications between the tower at Mzuzu Airport and the pilots, physical search teams were headed to Ekwendeni. The MDF commander called his officers directing that a team be deployed from Mzuzu to immediately head to Chikangawa to undertake the search and recovery operations. The IG and myself equally directed our formations from the northern region as well as our headquarters to deploy. By the time we went in to brief the President, even the Joint Operations Command reported they had started off to join the search and rescue operation on the ground. In the presidential briefing, we were also joined by the Executive Assistant to the then President, Mr. Sean Kampondeni, and Chief of Staff for State Residences, Mr. Prince Kapondangaga. The SPC and MDF Commander took lead in briefing the President on the developments as narrated above. The President immediately took decision that he was cancelling his trip to the Bahamas to lead the nation in the search and rescue operation. Search and recovery. The NIS deployed its teams that participated in the search and rescue operations. On the details, allow me to declare that the intelligence that we got at the time is very much in line with the narrations of other witnesses who have done so, particularly Mr. Joshua Varela, General Dr. Valentino Piri, and the serving military officers who have spoken on the same. A further detail worth of mention is that there were 5 teams in which our officers were included. Upon discovering the wreckage or the incident site, the military and police moved quickly to cordon off the place where other members of the rescue teams were instructed to stand further afield, which included NIS officers. However, the military were advised to allow Mr. Varela to join the military and police to get closer to the site, such that he was amongst the first to see the wreckage before any work was done by the officers. What I can further mention is a disturbing scenario on the reaction by some when Mr. Varela returned to join the other group, broken by what he had seen. One of the senior political leaders of Afford shouted, "This government wanted to kill my father, and now they have killed Chilima." This ignited similar cries by some women from his party and some from the UTM that the MCP had killed the late Vice President. This was the root of conspiracy theories that only grew louder with time. The conspiracy theories were a very serious threat to national security, such that by the time the burial was taking place, the country was on fire. Some political parties even deployed people to Nchewu to meet chiefs and incite people with a narrative that the late Vice President Dr. Chilima was assassinated and that former President Chakwera should not be allowed to attend the funeral in the district. This led to a further loss of lives, where the convoy of vehicles carrying the body of the deceased Vice President was stoned at a number of places along the route because some youth who had allegedly been offered lots of money and lots of alcohol and money by some politicians thought former President Chakwera would be part of the convoy. The lives of Madam Mary Chilima, the children and other family members who were traveling with the body were actually under very serious threat of harm. In actual fact, a number of vehicles, including one of the MDF escort vehicles, were stoned and bent. Just to correct here, the one that was bent was not the MDF vehicle. The MDF vehicle was just stoned. On the day of burial, when the then president traveled to Nchewu for the funeral, government had to heavily deploy the military along the route to support the police, and still more violence erupted on the return journey. It would only be fair if accountability would be considered by way of further investigations on who incited these developments and for what purpose, so that it should never happen again. Systemic gaps that need urgent attention. Honorable Chair, the Chikangawa plane accident and its handling revealed a number of systemic gaps that need to be addressed. The other inquiry reports made recommendations, and the military have also made recommendations, most of which hinge on the apparent resource gaps and lack of standardized systems in handling serious accidents and national disasters. The national security sector is not properly organized, with legal institutional misalignments very pronounced. The security agencies mostly work in silos, and this shows on how they are legally established, with each having its own act of parliament. There is need to review the national security policy and enact the National Security Act. The National Security Act will be critical in operationalizing the national security policy, in that its provision will be legally binding, forcing the security agencies of government to work together in a structured and consistent manner, as opposed to how it is now, where their coordination depends on ad hoc arrangements and goodwill of the leadership of the agencies at the time. The NSA, that is the National Security Act, will establish the National Security Council, chaired by the President, with all the national security relevant ministers as members. The technical committee would normally consist of the heads of national security agencies. This technical committee normally has scheduled meetings that feed into council meetings as established by law. There are further subcommittees that devolve up to the district level, with the Act prescribing how often they meet and the nature of joint operations they may undertake. The National Security Council would normally take precedence in handling accidents like the one under scrutiny, Honorable Chair. Equally, all the major threats to national security, as well as disasters, including pandemics, threats of war, and others, are handled by the National Security Council through its structures for efficient and effective coordination. Systems are developed and consistently improved. In 2022, the Law Commission was engaged to champion the review of all national security legislation, with the aim of developing the National Security Act in a most consultative manner as the main legally binding and extensively considered vehicle of national security coordination. This must be considered as a matter of utmost urgency if our nation is to stand strong among the community of nations. We may go further, as is the case with a lot of strong and progressive nations, to encourage every presidency to develop a national security strategy as a tool of identifying the main threats and weaknesses, as we aim to extensively and actively exploit opportunities and leverage on our strengths in relation to the developmental agenda of each succeeding government. Resource mobilization and allocation to the different security agencies of government are normally informed by the national security strategy. Honorable Chair, thank you very much to you and your committee for your attention. This is my submission, Dokani Mkwindangwira. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dokani Ngwira, for your detailed response, more especially on the recommendations. We appreciate your advice. I'm sure members have questions to pose to you, so I'll open the floor to members. Members, the floor is open for any further questions. We start with Dedza Mayani.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing the people of Dedza Mayani to ask the former Director General of NIS. Chair, you will guide me or guide all of us where you feel maybe my question might be as you have presented it, whether it's too sensitive, or you guide in the best way possible. I just wanted to know from his submission, he has highlighted to say when it comes to search, he had officers in 5 teams. I just wanted to know how many officers were deployed to each of those teams, and if at all NIS as mandated with their work, they knew how many teams were deployed apart from the 5 that he has highlighted. I want to engage him, so I'll be requiring his answers and then I'll involve. But at any time, Chair, you may intervene if you feel my question too sensitive or whatsoever. Thank you very much, Chair.
Sangwira?
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me answer this way, through you, Chair. The Office of the Director General is the first consumer of the intelligence product. For most of the operation, the Director General is not intimately involved in the details of operations as to the information that is being required here. The operation orders are deployed by the specific directors of the departments, or if it is a regional operation, the regional intelligence officers on the ground. So I would be lying if I say I can recall how many officers were deployed in each team, but I'm aware that at least in each team there were some officers from the NIS, because to that much I recall being briefed as much. And in terms of how many teams were there, as I indicated, Chair, in my preamble, I am basically trying to recall the little that I can recall from all that information. But if it is important information, it's information that is readily available in the service. But that how many teams were there, and these 5 teams, if I may recall, I think it's mostly on the first day, on the 10th, because as you may recall, the signal, it was the Leprai Tower that picked up the signal. The wreckage were discovered near another tower, the Ntungwa Tower. So this search was around the Leprai signal, mostly on the 10th, maybe without going too much into that. So I thought maybe if that suffices, Chair, you allow me to submit as such.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I was asking those questions because what I wanted to understand is how covered were the teams with your officers. What is drawing my attention to the number of people and how the teams were set, Chair, I wanted to know if the NIS officials could actually help to find out who took the pictures and shared them on the social media, because that's one of the biggest concerns that the families had expressed. So the only source that we could try to find that information is from your office. So I'm trying to look at how were they circulated as a team, because they are amongst a team of other officers. So if one person is against 50, you cannot see the other corner, what is happening and all that. So that was the basis of my question, to to how many teams and how many officers were deployed in each team. Those were supposed to be my aim. But where I wanted to draw my attention is to say, how were they observing the activities there and reported them accordingly? Because now we still want to get an answer somehow to who took the pictures and then ended up sharing them on sensitive pictures and shared them on the social media. Because I know, Chair, by whatever other witnesses, we know that even when it involves post-mortem, there were other photos which were taken, which we haven't seen in the social media, meaning there was some discipline on the other aspect, but this team is what I'm trying to gather, because those details are what I'm concerned about. Then, Chair, my last one on this one, I just wanted to understand, because he has commented on the stoning of the convoy, and he has made some references. I just wanted to know, were your officers deployed in these hot spots? If you can confirm, if your officers were deployed in these hot spots like busy trading centers, or where you are talking about that violence erupted, or did you gather that information later on by your officers, or your officers were eyewitnesses to whatever was happening there? That's my last submission, Chair, for the time being. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ngwira.
Thank you very much, Chair, and the member from Deja Mayani. Chair, who took the pictures? My officers were in most of the team. I should say all the teams. If there was any team, because that is normally the trade craft, the modus operandi, what you call in the military language. These photos, if you may recall, especially on the second day of the siege, a lot of people joined in. Of course, on the first day, there were people who joined, but there were not as many as... so by the time the wreckage was being discovered, there were a lot of people from different political parties, MCP, Afford, UTM, you know. Those are the ones that are pronounced in the reports that I remember. So to find out who took the pictures, information must be there within the service. Of course, hoping that the institutional memory is preserved within the service, because sometimes, you know, when our political transition, sometimes there's too many changes, you know, in our systems. But otherwise, that information is there. But if I may recall, to avoid speculation, one of the pictures, the early pictures, was from a member from the Alliance for Democracy party, you know, one of the team that was with one of the senior leaders, you know. So unfortunately, at the onset, when the wreckage had just been discovered, before the military took control, you know, of the scene, and naturally, these things had never happened in this country. So there were a lot of excitement, there were a lot of people broken, and people react in different ways. So basically, it's an unfortunate event, but that is what I say for now. But I think the service may be able to help. And then on the stoning of the convoy, yes, not without revealing much in terms of how we deploy. That is also another challenge. But basically, the information that I'm sharing here is what was gathered by the officers on the ground. So both on the day that the body was being taken to Ncheu, and both on the day of the burial. So we deploy together, the police, the military, and ourselves, if it's a joint operations. So maybe that is all I can say. Thank you, Chair.
Data, Kasina.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair. Once again, Pastor Ngwira, good afternoon. Chair, permission to engage. I have two, if not three questions only. Permission to engage the witness. I wanted to take you from your presentation, page 1, grade number 2. I was reading it. I want you to help me understand. At around 11 a.m., thereabouts, you got a call from Kia Station, your station officer, who informed you that at the airport they had activated the Joint Aviation Operation Command Center, which had involved all key stakeholders because they couldn't trace the whereabouts of the plane that had carried the late Vice President. I want you to, what started? They only told you that they have already certificated. The moment your officer got the news that the airport couldn't, aviation operation team couldn't trace the plane carrying the late Vice President, you didn't get any information. What you're telling us is that you only got it when they had already activated the search. Is it correct?
Chair, I help me to understand the question properly.
Okay, Chair, let me rephrase it like this. You, according to your presentation on grade number 2, you were informed the formation of joint activation team. So my question is, prior to that, it means your officer, as the DOR of your office then was, got the information maybe earlier. At any point, they never informed you or any of your officers. You only got the information of that they have already activated the search, they've already formed a team. That's my question.
Chair, thank you very much, Honorable Member. I think maybe just to understand from the point of view of, because what our officers do at the airport is what we call travel control. And basically to make sure that the systems at the airport are working, to assist those agencies that have a hands-on, responsibility. Now, the reporting, the command structure, because this officer normally does not report to me, and I don't know, probably he did well to report to me, because by this time I had not been informed by any the particular department that he reports to or the region on the ground. But also suffice to say, as I get it earlier on, the Director General's office is a consumer of processed intelligence. You don't go to the Director General without having something concrete. Just like the Director General cannot go to the President without, having a proper picture. At this time, this, for me, I may not be sure about the time, and you must forgive me that, but this was the first time that I heard that the plane was missing from this officer.
All right, thank you.
Put it that way.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Let's go straight to grade number 5 of your presentation. The time you were at the waiting lounge, now in grade number 5, you're saying you had directed your team in Northern Region to immediately head to Chikangawa to undertake the search and recovery operations. So to the IG, and the time you were briefing the President, the Joint Operations Command reported that had already started off on their way to search and on the ground. Why I'm interested on grade number 5 because your presentation, through Chair, it's silent if you had any officer, or you have, or I don't know, I shouldn't say you have because you're no longer there. If you had an officer stationed at Nzuzu Airport on a normal day, do you have an officer there, or you don't have any officer? Because your presentation, grade number 5, talks about now deployment of people to go to Chikangawa. Did you have any officer who day to day was reporting at Nzuzu Airport?
Chair, let me put it this way. Mzuzu Airport if it is working, it is now. So normally Mzuzu would work if maybe a VIP is coming or something is coming, you know. But in terms of on paper, in the structure, the NIS is supposed to have officers at Karonga Airport, Mzuzu Airport, at all, even the airdromes. But most of them are not functional. So that time, the officers were not permanently stationed there. Maybe this is how I can respond.
That time, I like the bit onto your response.
Yes.
Maybe they are there when the VIP or there's some operation happening. On this day, the VP was flying to Mzuzu. Your office, if you are aware, and if the unfortunate incident didn't happen, the VP was to land at Mzuzu. Was any of your officers deployed on this particular day at the Mzuzu airport?
Chair, I think as I had earlier indicated, they may have been deployed, but that is the, how do I put it? That is the operational command of the regional intelligence officer, where he doesn't have to inform the DG where he has deployed. But normally, they should have been deployed. Even at the funeral of Honorable Kasambara, because, you know, it was a state funeral, they may have been deployed.
And they never, I understand the office receive hundreds of reports every day. You don't remember receiving any report if there was any officer who was at Mzuzu Airport and whatever events were happening there on this day?
So, Chair, in Mzuzu, only the regional intelligence officer is mandated to report to the DG. So they may have reported to the regional intelligence officer something, but if my memory serves me right, before I heard from the station officer in Kia, because remember what they were expecting, if it has failed to land in Mzuzu, it is supposed to return in Lilongwe. So when it didn't return, that's when they activated the Joint Operation Command Center. I remember correctly, I think it was in the boardroom of ADL at Kia there. You know. Other than before then, I had not received any report from any officer from Mzuzu.
Okay, let's go quickly, Chair. Bullets, I will combine the question on the search and recovery, bullet number 7 and 8, where you're saying you deployed a team. I want you to confirm that NIS participated in the search.
Yes, NIS participated in the search.
Chair, I wanted to take you, maybe before that, if I read and hear you very well, you are saying most of the issues said, it's what others came here and already said, like Joshua Valley and others. It means you were following the proceedings and you're able to know what others say, is it?
Yes. As the ones that I mentioned, I followed.
Chair, I want to take you to presentation submitted by the General Dr. Paul Valentino Pili, page 5. Page 5 of Dr. Valentino's presentation. For the sake of maybe you allow me, Chair, if you want me to read it for the witness to know, because on page 5 of this presentation, which General Valentino submitted here, on the bullet number 9, search and rescue operation, it's talking about the teams which participated in the search, and on the team, the efforts, I'll read it. The mission was placed under the command of Brigadier General Richard Jagonabanja, the then command of 101 Brigade, headquartered in Blanta, in Zuzu rather. The search effort comprised personnel drawn from the Malawi Air Force, 3rd Battalion of the Malawi Rifles, 3MR, and the troops already deployed in Chikangawa Forest Reserve under Operation Teteza Nkarango, the Malawi Police Services, and other emergency responders also joined the operation. Police operations were coordinated by then it's silent about your team, about NIS or regional office of NIS if participated. Do you have any comment on that? Or that's how it's supposed to be, that they're not supposed to mention NIS?
Chair, that is exactly that, Chair. So that is why, maybe let me put it this way. You find even a lot of police operations where they have even arrested people, they will never mention NIS. But you find that the intelligence has come from NIS. But even in deploying, NIS is not supposed to announce, or even, because sometimes NIS looks at how those who are doing the operations are conducting themselves. So everybody is a target of NIS operations. So you don't announce that we are here. Chair, maybe that's how I can put it.
On the team which this is last Chair, the teams you deployed, at what time did they stop the search or participating in the search?
I would be lying if I say I recall the time, or that I was briefed exactly what time they stopped.
Because there are conflicting reports. Police and others, they say the code of the search on the 10th, and the army commander, in his submission, page 6, he told this community that at some point he got a call in the evening from Mr. Sean Kampondeni asking about if the report that they had ordered the search to be discontinued was true. And he answered it was not true, as the soldiers were not given such orders. According to the army commander, the search continued throughout the night. So you had 5 teams. Did you get any report at any point, even in your report, if you participated throughout the night with soldiers, or the search was indeed called off? Chair, that's all.
Chair, let me put it this way. I remember being part of that, a bit of that conversation, because even some of us were a bit alarmed that the search had been called off. So the commander, even to myself, indicated, because I also asked, he said, no, the military have not stopped. And for the police, we were told that because they were not prepared, and understandably, even in other jurisdictions, when it goes to certain terrains, it is usually the military that are equipped to go in certain terrains to do the search and operations. So, yes, that is something that I remember, because it was a few phone calls that went to and fro. Thank you, Chair.
I have a burning question, which probably should prompt further questions. So under Section 4, subsection F, the NIC, the NIS has an explicit statutory mandate to provide security to the VVIPs. Is that correct? Can you switch on your mic?
Very correct. By law, Chair, very correct.
So how is the VP classified by NIS? Was he a person of interest in terms of security to you?
Chair, I'll try to respond, although I would have loved that if this conversation happened elsewhere, because it concerns security of the VVIPs. But all the agencies are involved in protecting VVIPs. The challenge that we have is because of our political history. If Chair, you may recall, from the one-party state, if the state was accused of repression, one of the instruments that is said to be part of that is what was called the special branch, which is the ancestors of the NIS. So the transition from one-party state to democracy, the movement of intelligence from the police, somewhere, somehow, it was not handled maybe in a very systematic way, such that's why you find that the intelligence moved from the police in 2000, and it is only in 2017 that an act of parliament was passed, which should have, in Botswana, our friends, I think it was 2006, by the time they were moving, the act had already been passed, So this is, of course, it has improved very much. Systems are able to work together, but certain offices, let's say if a minister, they tell him, well, bring an intelligence officer to be part of your security. Most, they don't want, because they think people want to spy on them. you know. But from our own way, we're able to protect those VVIPs because most of the protection, Chair, for VVIPs, in as much as people think it's about guns, and it is mostly the information, Chair, that is able to help with threat assessment and the like. So working with the formations that actually protect the VVIPs. So the office of the Vice President, his security team, was working with the officers in terms of security, but they were not physically deployed within his office.
So I want an outright answer. The office of the NIC, does it provide intelligence to the office of the VP in the same manner that it does to the state president?
Chair, that is a question that even in America, which is a 300-year democracy, the president has to decide who receives the briefs. And the different presidents, for example, in the US, that's why you find somewhere a mention of a national security strategy. Another president will say, it only comes to me. Another president will include the Secretary of State, will include the Vice President. Here the challenge with the Act says the DG shall report to the President. But also the service provide what we call departmental intelligence to other agencies upon request, but not to politicians. For example, Homeland Security may have an issue. So intelligence from the DG's office to the secretary, PS for that office, the PS may decide whether his minister need to know, because that has to be at a technical level. But to report to the principle of that system, the law as constructed here in Malawi does not allow that. Thank you. Only to Parliament. The service also reports to Parliament, of course. Thank you, Chair.
So I want the clear-cut answer. Is it yes or no?
Malawi, no, Chair.
Sorry, I've still got the floor. So, meaning to say that the National Intelligence Service was not aware of any threats that were posed to the VP in any other circumstance apart from this trip going to Mzuzu. Is that correct?
No, that wouldn't be correct, Chair.
Were you aware of any other threats that were posed to the VP?
We were not aware of any other threats, Chair. But that doesn't mean we had no capacity to be aware. Maybe let me put it that way. Because intelligence deploys and corrects intelligence in many ways. Which, as I said, Chair, earlier on, maybe going a bit further than that is like putting how the system operates on the open, which I know my successor would not like.
No, I definitely appreciate that. The VP, was he a threat to government? And the relationship was sour with the state president. It's a given fact. He must have been on your radar. Can you confirm whether he was on your radar or not?
Chair. Malawi. It's a given fact. What is a given fact, Chair? I will tell you this. The relationship between the UTM and the MCP, the relationship between the VP and the president are not the same. I mean, that's what, from intelligence, you know, because I'm aware, even when his delegated powers were removed, I think the reforms and others were removed because of the corruption case. And mind you, that corruption case started with the things that were mentioned in a court in the UK. And that was done together with Mr. Kapondangaga's chief of staff being interdicted. And even that time, you know, the VP attended every cabinet meeting, you know. And also, I'm aware that every once in a while, the two of them would have tea, where nobody's there, the two of them meeting. So the relationship between the two and the relationship between their parties was a very complicated animal. I mean, from the point where some of us were sitting, that is what. But to say it was a fact that their relationship, no, I don't think so. Actually, seeing the two of them together, the body language, unless body language lies, but some of us were trained to read those things. The challenges were between the expectations from this side, the expectation from this side. versus the political dynamics between the two. But there were different political parties, each one of them with their different ambitions. It was understandable that the relationship wouldn't be rosy in any environment, whether it is in America or anywhere. This is maybe how I can assist the committee, Chair.
Now, I wanted this clarification because you definitely have privileged information that the public do not have, that some of us do not have. So it was important for you to make this clarification. Yes.
I didn't get. I appreciated the response he made, but I didn't get the actual answer to your question. If the VP was on the late VP was on the radar, on their radar, still more. I think I wanted to get the clear answer on that one. And also lastly, the supplementary chair, I also get his explanation on issues of threat and everything, and I get your response how the act says you need to report to the president. In the event that there's a threat to the vice president, who do you go and report? You report to the office of the vice president, or you still have to go to the president. It has to be the president to decide whether to tell the vice president or not. Just a general response, not related to the individuals, but the office. That's what, Chair.
Chair, the VP was not on the ladder of NIS as a target of NIS operations. The VP was government. The VP was part of government. I really wish there are certain things, because personally there are things that I went through myself. But the VP, that's why even those people who maybe were in public functions where the VP was there, some of us, he would actually call me, call me to greet me. I would be worried because I was one of those people who was being accused that I work for the VP, although I was DG for National Intelligence. So the VP was never on the radar, unless if he had been a threat, maybe to the president or a threat to the government, to the constitutional order. But that had not arisen, Chair, if I may correct properly. Thank you, Chair. And then maybe there's the one on if there were particular threats. Chair, the security of the president, or should I say the security of the presidency, the head is the guard commander. Because some people, when they look at the guard commander at State House, they think he's only responsible for the security for the president. The ones that are protecting the vice president, the second vice president, their boss is the guard commander at State House. Now, on a threat, the guard commander at State House, at operationally, because threats, they are very evolving. Certain threats may need you to act within seconds, within minutes. So you can't wait, let me report to the president. It doesn't work like that. So you have, that's why the operational systems speak to each other besides the leadership. But also, as I indicated, there was always contact as well with those protecting the vice president. And I pray, and I know it must be the same scenario now, that between those protecting the vice president and the service are speaking, Even if it is a minister, there's a threat to the minister. The security for the minister must be made aware, because those are the people that are going to remove the threat or maybe respond to the threat. And later on, you can be reporting to the leadership of what has transpired. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nkatabe North and Blantyre Malabada, then Mwanza Central.
Thank you, Chair, for giving people of Nkatabe North to ask questions. Yeah, Mr. Ngwira, I've got two questions. Yeah, first of all, is on these particular days of the crash, did the NIS has got any record of investigation? And if yes, can this be made available to the committee? First question. Secondary is you described the resulting conspiracy theory and call for violence, including allegation that youth were offered alcohol and money to attack the funeral convoy. As a result, serious threat to the national security. Did NIS conduct or contribute to any investigation into who was behind the incitement at the time? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, investigations, police conduct investigations. We gather information for intelligence, sometimes even to assist the police in their investigations. I differentiate that because the police will be gathering evidential, maybe to go to court and and the like. Whilst for the purposes of intelligence is to neutralize the threats or to see what can be done to improve the systems, things like those. So yes, there are reports. Actually, what I have been reporting is coming from those reports that I can recorrect because I don't have access to those reports now, and that is more than 2 years ago. And considering, Chair, that now I'm mostly about verses and my farm there, farming bananas and other things. So I wouldn't want to be misplacing names and what, but I am sure in those reports some names are there. Even on the Nchew incidents, some names are there. And if maybe I was very, very certain about how the committee or this nation can protect me, some of these names I may recorrect, but knowing where we live and where I was born, I've been in the service from 1997. The safest way, Chair, just to respond to Ngarabe North, if the committee wants access to these reports and praying that the service will cooperate properly, they are available there. They should be able to avail them to you. That is because some of them is basically by way of memos going to the president. Some of them are field reports coming to the departments that prepare those memos. So the DG, because he's the one who has a mandate to decide what may be a risk to national security, me, I'm outside. I can only give advice here and there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Let me just follow up on the conspiracy theory, because you mentioned in your report there was a conspiracy theory. And it started at the scene when Mr. Valera returned to join the group. That's what you're writing. One of the political leaders of Afford shouted, "This government wanted to kill my father, and now they have killed Chilima." You're saying this ignited cries by some women from his party, some from UTM, that the MCP had killed the late vice president. And you're saying this was the root cause of the conspiracy theories. Would you be able to recall or tell the committee the name of this leader of Afford? Because there is evidence there that we would like to pursue and get to the bottom of the matter.
Chair, for now I'm just a villager, Chair, and I beg your indulgence. As I said, all this intelligence is there, they should be able to give you, Chair. But also, when you look at certain public pronouncements, and then you find out who was there, on that time, you are able to deduce, Chair, on the who made these things, But I maybe to say it was a root cause, it's an overstatement. Maybe if I put it that way, maybe it's wrong. But it was the start. It was the start, not the root cause. Because even at the SIWA, the day the SIWA was declared, sorry for me to say this, there were members of certain political parties, including the ruling party. When they came, normally when you come at the SIWA, I correct this now because the way it was reported, you come to the SIWA, mapepesa, then you go and sit down, just like everybody. But it was like an operation. You have 8 or 10 top leadership talking to so many people, And I think some of the leaders maybe of UTM may correct some people talking to them by way of voice condoling, but also raising certain questions. And, normally officers will make sure that they are in earshot of certain things. So from the SIWA, it was very apparent, and even leadership was warned that this funeral is going to be a very problematic funeral, because you could tell then there's a trend that there has been a decision somewhere that it was going to be used for politicking. Sorry for me to say that, Chair. As blanket as it is, Chair, and hoping that by the grace of God, I am still safe.
Yeah, no, I understand, but this is a serious allegation, and you have said you want to help this committee to find answers. You have mentioned names of Varela and others in the report. Why are you unable to tell us the senior political leader of Afford who made this serious allegation that the government wanted to kill his father, and now they have killed Chilima? We cannot walk here away and take your statements lightly, because that's the whole purpose we're here, okay, is to uncover this allegation. Now, you are a former Director General of NIS. You are willing to walk away here without disclosing to this committee, and you're referring us to the office when we have not been assured that there have been any reports that were submitted to that office. You are here, we are together, the public is listening, okay? We don't want people to speculate and wait for us to read reports. We want to hear it from the horse's mouth, because you are the one that has written this report. Would you be kind enough or generous enough to advise us who made these allegations?
Chair, let me put it this way, Chair, and I really understand, that the committee needs the information. That is why my understanding is probably that's why you brought in the former MDF commander, you brought in the current MDF commander, but in this case it is only me who doesn't even have the product, because the intelligence product is in the hands of the incumbent. Let me put it that way. But also, you have used the word generosity, Chair. Generosity must be measured, And when I leave this place, I get into my car, go home. It is me. I am alone. And with the knowledge that I have, Chair, from the history of intelligence, whether here in Malawi or elsewhere, you will allow me, Chair, not to mention those names. I mentioned the Varelas and the like because I was referring to what they reported to this committee. But maybe the other nuance is that I am not making allegations. I was asked to bring intelligence as I recollect it. And this is what I brought you. Now it is up to the service to say, the former DG was lying. We don't have that, because they are in the government, and your committee has a mandate to engage them. This is what I can advise, because at least they are protected. If I recollect the way I was protected when I was in the service. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate that, and it's unfortunate that you don't want to divulge any information for security reasons. That's what you're saying. You're worried about your security. But yeah, supplementary. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. I had similar question. The question you asked former DG, I had the similar question. Now, to be honest, Honorable Chair, we are all Malawians. We are here because of what you said in 9 and 10. Because I want to quote your words, conspiracy theories. We are here because of this. If there wasn't this, we wouldn't be here. Yeah? So we need to get to the source. And the start of the conspiracy theory is with this leader, which is mentioned, from what you have said. So, Chair, I wanted to request, since it looks like the former DG will not tell us the name, is it possible for the committee to write whoever, so that they can actually give us the name, because we need to interview this so that we get to the root of the whole issue. And also, Chair, riding on this advantage you gave me, I would also want to, in that letter, because it looks like the DG will not tell us, the former DG will not tell us, we should also ask about the political parties that kind of sponsored violence in Icheo, so that we have those names as well, and then we pursue the issue. So, Chair, I wanted to request, if the former DG will not tell us, but we should pursue this issue as a committee, so that the issue is actually settled. And if I remember very well, the Madam Mary Chilima also complained about the risk that she experienced when she was going to the funeral. So this is quite important that the committee should actually look into. So I wanted to make that suggestion since I think my questions, because I had the questions you have, but I think the former DG may not tell us at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
No, we will follow up. I don't want us to belabor the point. We will follow up. And the problem is that he's making this personal statement because he was on the site, and we don't know whether he made a report to NIS to this effect, that even if we write NIS, they would confirm this fact. That's a challenge that we have. The other challenge I have is the allegations he has stated here are bordering on the root cause of the crash. Okay, we will be concerned about what happened in Cheo. That's incidental. Things have happened. But we want to get to the bottom of the matter, the root cause of the problem. And unfortunately, he is not able to divulge any names at this stage. So as a committee, as you have guided, we'll try and find means. But I don't want to belabor the point. I think the matter has been made. It's very clear that it's something we need to follow up.
Point of order, Chair.
Yeah, but I have other people that are on the queue, so I don't want us to go forth and backwards. So can I? I know, but he's not ready to engage. He has shut down.
Chair, may you allow me to say something? Chair, I was not on the site. I think I indicated earlier on that the Director General is the first consumer of the intelligence product. Whatever I have reported here is what I have consumed as intelligence, and that I'm sharing with you. That is why I was saying that this is not something that I just came, sat down and say what no. It's what I try to recorrect from the intelligence product that I consumed. If they sound like allegations, Chair, it's unfortunate, but I feel that's why sometimes, sorry for me to say this, Chair, the way maybe our friends. They are doing in South Africa, where they have an evidence lead, who investigates some of these things. Because some of these things, like the one you are asking in Chikangawa, people made a lot of statements, even in the public. To the same extent of what I'm pointing out, what happened in Chikangawa. And because the anger, and I say this, Chair, as a national security expert. If, for example, the day the president was going to Nchew, the then president, I even recollect some people, some senior officers telling the president not to go to Nchew because it is not going to be well. That's why we even had to talk to the military to deploy heavily. In fact, the moment on the way back, the moment we passed with the convoy, the people were coming behind us were heavily stoned. We're talking more than 20 vehicles, So this is it is a serious issue. If we are honest with ourselves, yes, what happened in Chikangawa is a very serious. We need to look at the gaps and what should never happen again. The same way, because even lives were lost there. Maybe it's something I didn't mention. If I recollect very well, 3 or so people lost their lives because of and that anger was not natural anger, because sometimes it could have been natural anger. This was anger that was actually fermented as a way of an operation by certain quarters. And I wish if I was in the system, knowing I'm protected, those people who have worked with me know, I always told truth to power. That's why even, that at certain times things happen. But anyway, Chair, I thought I needed to point out that. So it's not like I'm just bringing things up.
No, thank you very much. Blantyre Malabada, Mwanza Central, and then Kasungu North.